right, guys, welcome to Wake Up Humans.
Wake 'em.
Wake 'em up. You got my boy here, Diego. Now, it's a funny thing, when I think about Diego, it's like that guy you could go off one name with. Just the first name. And I literally just asked you, how do you pronounce your last name? Is it Lopez or Lopes? And you told me Lopez.
Lopez.
So this is our first time videotaping us doing this. And lo and behold, Diego's got a Band-Aid on his forehead, so I threw him under the bus.
I gotta look good.
But
you know
in
what
pure
I mean?
fashion style.
He said we're gonna record video, and I look spectacular.
That's it,
Made
man.
sure to shine up for you.
But that's one of the funny things about what we do is it's just raw, from the heart. We have a conversation. We have no idea where this is going. And just have fun with it, man. So why don't we start with Diego, kind of where you came from. Like, you know, for no one that knows you out there, you know, your childhood, 'cause I know you have an interesting background.
Yeah. So my history is I was born in Argentina.
Yeah.
And really we moved very quickly to Brazil, which for a lot of Argentines is going to be a conflict of interest. They might not know how to feel about that.
Is that a soccer thing?
Yeah, it's basically, you know, but I mean, Brazil's won more World Cups, and they really are, I have a lot of respect for them, but I think something in my blood kind of fires up when you think about Brazil.
Right.
But we moved very quickly to Brazil. My father was in banking, and just, we spent a lot of time traveling the world. From, we would spend a certain amount of time in Brazil, and we moved to Brussels, and then we eventually ended up in Coral Springs, which, funny enough, now my parents are back there, retired, so that New York City, like all over the place.
Because of your father's work.
Yeah. And he was working for Citibank, and then ended up working for Chase, and then
My
JP
father worked
Morgan.
for Citibank.
Yeah?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Gotta connect the dots.
When you were in all these other countries, were you part of their school system, or were you being homeschooled?
Part of their school system, but then most of my life was really spent in the U.S.
Okay.
So that's why even foreign born, I still sound like a good old American.
You speak many languages, don't you?
I do.
How many languages do you speak?
So I went through German for 7 years, but I don't really use it much, so I don't really like to boast and say like I speak it. But if you put me in Germany a couple months in, I'm going to be perfectly fine.
Wow.
All the way up from high school and into college. And the reason why is because I didn't have a very good experience with French in my 7th grade class. Her name was Mrs. Kaiser, which is ironic because then Kaiser is more German, and I ended up going to German. But she was not a good person, and so I ended up being far less interested in French than what I wanted, and being very comfortable with Spanish, and that wasn't the direction I was going to go in. So in high school, German was there. I said, cool, let's do it.
Wow, that's wild.
Yep, so you got German. My first language my parents had to actually learn, which from what they say was Portuguese. It was really Brazil. And so my parents always laughed that they had to learn Portuguese in order to understand me, so that's funny. And then Spanish, obviously, from the household. German through high school and college, which is what I majored for the first time I went to school at American in Washington, D.C. But then I lived in Switzerland for almost a year, so
Damn.
was picking up French there. And then
Wait, French in Switzerland?
Yeah. You've got German up top, you've got French, you've got Italian that's down below.
Okay.
Yeah. They're so inclusive and they're so passive that basically they just absorb everybody else's culture.
That's one of the amazing things about going overseas is they'll jump on a plane or a train and go to another country like it's nothing.
Yeah.
Where it's like in the U.S., people, you know, they have to plan for months to go to Florida.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
Exactly. Here the people are like, you know, they'll be sitting in a house and they'll have like plan and then use Google travel stuff, and over there you're sitting there and you're like, do you want to go to Paris tomorrow? They're like, okay.
Yeah, we're doing a conference in Greece over the summer, July 4th weekend, and I was blown away at first. I said, well, you know, how many Greek people are... They said, no, people are going to fly from all these other countries. And they are. They're all registering from other countries. Jumping on a plane and going in is nothing for them. It's like us taking an Uber.
Yep.
Pretty wild. So it's, you know, that mindset to me is really interesting, and that's one of the things I love about you is, you know, digging into this and your background as a young kid in these other countries. Yeah, I'm going to learn German, French. Yeah, I didn't like it. The teachers are a pain in the ass, whatever. It's developed you into this guy you are now. And
absolutely.
And you're an athlete. Tell us a little bit about your athletic background.
Argentina, Brazil, whatever it is, the culture is a soccer culture.
Right.
So all the way up till 3 or 4, and I have an older brother and an older sister, and they're 7 and 9 years older, so considerably older. And if you know about the body, and I work with kids, so this is something that's hypersensitive to, but you know that kids have developmental stages, but based off of your environment, you can also pick up. So I would learn how my sister and my brother worked. And my sister played softball and my brother played hockey, and I started playing roller hockey. And so besides soccer, there's really a tremendous amount of sports that I played, from whether it's the track or basketball or baseball. And really my heart, though, has always been in soccer, just because I feel it's like in my blood. It was always playing, you know, like it just wells me up. And it also was what I played the most with my sister and my brother. So in terms of what I was retaining and how quickly I was learning, I ended up really becoming very, very, very prominent locally in northern New Jersey, and ended up playing for different teams that would win state cups over and over.
Right.
But then we went to regionals and we lost to the team that won it. I ended up getting recruited, and I ended up getting injured my freshman year really bad.
Recruited by who?
By American University in Washington, D.C. D1, they were 5th in the nation when I was recruited. I was one of 7 people, not in the U.S., on the planet that were recruited. There were 3 that were international and 4 that were in the U.S.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it's massive. And I was like the cliche. I would literally get yelled at because I was juggling underneath a street light for like hours. You know, and I got my homework-ish done enough. But I would literally be the one that was under the streetlight, and no one ever. My father. What's wonderful is that we talked about traveling the world and things like that. Like, imagine to live your entire life and know only Argentina, and then you get uprooted, and you have to move. And so, my father would go 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning from New Jersey, take the train into New York City, and then come back at night. Still make my soccer. These are all things I didn't. Like, nobody was like, this is what your dad's doing, he's a great dad. But instead, like, he would still coach my teams, and I started to learn really what the grind was.
Right.
And so for me, all these different sports, and then realizing, like, if I love something, like, all the things that who I am today are very intentional decisions based off of how my life went and why it went that way. So a mother that was just, you know, to avoid like the emotional, which I can always feel, I would already feel welling up inside me, but she was always there with unlimited love, right? And we think about, you know, I know us in terms of faith is very strong, but you think about God and unlimited love, like that's the ultimate rendition of it in my world. And for my dad, it was always, it just seemed like he was never tired. You know, I'm positive that the man was tired, right? And he would never complain, he never this, he just always just shut up and did what he had to do.
Right.
And so to be raised with the mixture of those two, where you have so much love and affection, but just a relentless, insane work ethic, allowed me to build myself into a very unique athlete. And I was also, I was on a skate team, so I would skate like half pipes and, you know, which we call vert. I would skate vert and fun boxes, and, you know, so I started speed skating.
Ice skating, roller skating?
No, inline. You know, the big, huge 13-foot half pipes where you fly up and do all that type of stuff. So I was always fearless, but I always was fearless because I knew that I could kind of learn it.
Right.
So in terms of athletics, that's really me, like older siblings helping push somebody young that will allow them to learn so that we can eventually become, and then the work ethic that I saw. My sister was always amazing at the sports she played, from soccer to softball, really basketball, anything. My brother was always, he was a lefty, which he'll probably hear this, but has always, you know, I feel like my father, my uncle, which is my mom's dad, my mom's brother, and my brother were like unbelievable motivators for me. Like, I wanted to be like them. So to see the athletic side and all the different, my uncle is a small business owner in Argentina, working really with like shoes. That's why I have a shoe problem now. Gracias, tío. But the you know, and then my dad, like all this combination really brought a very different level of athlete out of me. And so yeah, that's kind of like who I am in terms of my family, my athletics.
So when you think about, when I look at people and I see, and one of the reasons you're here is you're a very driven, successful dude. And my mission is to, you know, like I know you thrive around kids, and having 5 kids, you've got 2 kids, right? How old are your kids?
2 and 6.
And I look at the way children are being raised today. And hearing your story, it's almost like, you know, to be that guy who's now in New Jersey to be one of the few being in the world being recruited by American.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think? I mean, who do these kids have to become? Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
To hit that level, who do you got to become?
So there's a few things. One, I think we talked about this months ago about like the helicopter parent. So let's step away from who the kid needs to become and let's actually reflect now on who the parents need to become in order for that to happen. We babysit our kids. We protect them from any type of, anything. We throw, which I know is important. We throw medication at them like, oh, my head hurts. And so we throw and we protect our kids.
Right.
But then at the end of the day, when shit hits the fan and like now all that's gone, like who are you? Are you able to persevere? And so
you mean when like mom and dad aren't around and they're not
and
protect.
You're at college and you can't figure out like how to tie your shoes, and the reality is because you've had your shoes tied, and I know it seems simple, but as parents, we need to allow our kids to be pushed. We need to hold them to high standards. Mm-hmm. We need to support them, but you need to be realistic and like, oh, you're upset. Well, you're upset, but and most parents are like, oh, well, let me just calm you and hug. I'm like, so I sit my daughter down who's 6, right? And it's a little tough love, but I say, okay, so you're upset. Slow down for a second, take a breath. She always takes a breath. And then I say, let's figure out how we got here. And then she says this and said, okay, so why you're upset is because of this over here. So where can we learn from this? And so instead of the kind of the huggy and that type of thing, I always give a hug at the end because I'm just a very affectionate person. But it's always about who I am as a parent that's going to not only set the example, which is a major reason that I still continue to be, I just cleared 40, so into a new decade, and I continue to be as insane athlete as I can be because I know who's watching. And it starts with your kids and everybody else. Nobody can question that. Oh, well, eventually you lose it. Oh, yeah? Like, I'm stronger than I used to be.
Right.
And the example that we set as parents is that, it's like we need to be protecting our kids. Like, yeah, your kids are never going to be in danger, but I'm positive knowing you and Tammy that you don't babysit them in terms of, like, if you screw up, like, let's learn from it.
Right.
Instead of being like, no problem.
There's
I'll do
consequences.
this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so who the kids need to be now is, because of that, I think kids aren't learning how to be uncomfortable. They're not learning how to hurt and how to struggle and what that is. And of all the great experiences I've had, the ones where, like when I lived in Switzerland, I didn't know anybody. So imagine, and I'm kind of more interesting in my style and a little bit crazy, but I really am more introverted. I find my motivation internally, and I love to kind of think from the inside out, and I'm not motivated from the outside. And I think these kids, they don't know themselves because they don't have an opportunity. You find yourself out when things go bad, when horrible things happen.
Right.
My life was soccer, and I ended up failing my first semester at American when I injured myself, which is actually the major reason why I do what I do. Because if I had me when I injured myself, instead of these pros, like, oh, a surgeon, a physical therapist, it was garbage. Because what they didn't do is they didn't bring me back to the sport. Mm-hmm. I got injured, it was a hyperextension and then a tear of the ACL with a whole lot of other issues. And nobody brought me back so that my confidence could be back so that I can play at that level.
Right.
And then eventually I'm pretty sure I failed all of my classes in my freshman year. Maybe 1D, but I definitely was like bombed everything because I lost my identity. And it's like these kids that taught me and brought me to where I am now, where now I have to help kids. Like I have kids that are in there that train with me that are, oh, well, I'll never be the same again. You're right. I'm going to make you way better, way more able to take on anything. And then what you learn is after that, the kids understand how to persevere.
Right.
Like this happened, so I didn't make this team and things like that. And you could see kids that used to cry 2 years ago, grown kids, that now are like, I didn't make it. Man, I got to grind out till next year. And you see that switch. Mm-hmm. So kids need to do that. They need to fail. They need to push themselves. They need to be uncomfortable. They need to be fearless, and they need to be educated, which is one of the major reasons that just a few days ago I launched a podcast the podcast is going to be centered around connecting the adult-centered science that's out and how, like, what does that mean for a kid?
Right.
Like, oh, you need to whatever this and that, but then what impacts do you have on your kids in terms of those changes? So kids these days, I think they need more grit. I think they need more ability to just be fired up, and they don't know themselves. So then now you're a rocket on a slippery slope, like it's just flopping everywhere like a big idiot.
Right.
And you know, and I'm fearless. If you don't like how I do things, then go find somebody else that won't bring you where I'm going to bring you.
Right.
But you need to be fearless. You need to be pushed. You need to be uncomfortable. You need to cry. I don't care if you're a guy or a girl. You need to let it out.
Right.
And then learn from it and then grow.
Right.
Because those are the bricks that you build a foundation that you can never be rocked off. Nobody's going to tell you that somebody could be like, oh, Steve is a piece of shit. And you're going to be like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
But weak kids are told that, and then
Right.
they kind of fall back. You could tell Sierra all day that she's not valuable. She's gonna be like, oh, that's good, and then she's gonna go right back to realizing that she absolutely is valuable. So
Right.
kids need grit. They need to fail. And they also need a good support system, and that's really gonna help them move forward.
Right. And that term support system, I think the system's falling apart, bro.
Yep.
Falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just had an incident with Kane. He got written up at school for something. Wasn't as big of a deal as it really, but he's claiming responsibility for it.
Mm-hmm.
He tried, give me the little bullshit, soften the story, and then when I got into it, his eyes welled up, and I said, bro, you got to man up and be responsible.
Yeah.
Now, I think back when I was his age, like Tammy gets all fired up.
Yeah.
I think back when I was doing it with his age, I wouldn't have used my words. I would have punched the kid in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Kane used some words. Okay, so I'm kind of feel blessed he's learned
Mm-hmm.
not to be physical,
Yeah.
which is cool because I know it could be a lot worse.
Oh yeah.
But I literally, like this morning, we had a conference call with the teachers because I said, I want to know what happened. I want your perspective. And it's funny because they're being told how they got to handle situations by some board that's not even in the school.
Mm-hmm.
So they write you up. I said, well, what's the accountability? What, with these boys that were involved, and it's such a silly situation, but it can become a bigger one as they get older if it's not handled properly now, which I'm responsible for my kid.
Yep.
Where he's going in today and he's saying he's apologizing, he's fessing up, and his eyes are welling up, man. Like, really? I'm like, yeah, and I'm holding you accountable.
Yeah.
Because I'm not raising a punk-ass kid. You're going to grow up to be a strong man.
Yeah.
But I worry about the other kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then hearing the teachers' voices, I'm like, man, these guys, their hands are tied. They just want to pass the buck, carry on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And that blew up in a whole conversation because having kids that are older that have gone through the system sucks, bro.
Oh yeah.
These kids are in trouble.
Oh yeah.
What are we going to do about it? I mean, you hear about the kid under the street light juggling the ball. How many kids are outside training and working now?
They're not.
They're not.
They wait for somebody else to give them their how to do it, and
Yeah.
they don't. I mean, I had AOL back in the day, but I wasn't like researching stuff. Like you wake up and you look around, and the problem is that our kids are broken probably because our adults are broken, and probably because our society is broken.
Right.
And we get further and further away from what's important. We get further away from, like, people are like afraid of religion,
Right.
like it's a cult. I'm like, yeah, I'll join a cult that's about love and giving
Right.
and understanding and what's that word, forgiveness. Like I'll join that cult. And the worst thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be more loving and forgiving and understanding. And I was like,
Right.
that sounds great. But our kids are broken, our society's broken, everything's all like checklists and did you go through so you can get into this and that. You're right, and it's such bullshit. And then I'm very close from finishing my degree to be a teacher, and I went to school back in '98, but like just 20 years later,
Yeah.
because we need more educators. We need more, I can't go and gain interest in like public service in terms of being a politician, but we need politicians that are willing to kind of to stand up and fight for what's right. And I'm not talking about what's right for because it fits into like a culture side of humanity, right? Like, we need people to give a shit about humanity, and we don't. We're too busy drugged up. We're too big. We're like, something hurts over here, so we pop 2 Advils and those don't work anymore, so we go to 3. And I'm like, why don't you fix what the problem is? And I think that we're growing weaker. We're growing more broken. We don't come together. We have the most amazing society, being with experience around the world. Like, Americans, we are just so unaware
Right.
of how this world is hard. This world is hard, and we put away our iPad, so we grab our phone and check our watch, and then we go to our MacBook, and then we're like, oh, I'm so sad and depressed.
Well, the word anxiety rolls off these kids' lips like it's the new thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm anxious. I got social anxiety. I mean, it drives me bananas.
There's some research that shows from universities that the biggest issue is over 50% of the kids will say that the biggest challenge they have with college is anxiety. 50%. So we're training our kids. Now, a 100 level class in college is, let's be honest, it's easy. The teachers' babies, they kind of help you transition and stuff like that. And these kids are like flipping out, and they're stressing out, and they're turning to all sorts of stuff, and they're just not aware as to what you really need to do in terms of being happy, and that really starts young. My athletes, I have had some that are closer to the 7 age, but like 8 and up, give them, because I will make sure that they are built with grit, and I hold them accountable. I reach out to my athletes. I put them on a text message with their parents, because I don't want to see you once, twice, 3 times a week, and then the other days I don't know what's going on.
Right.
Like, so I put them in a chat, and they can connect with me. I'm like, let me be what helps you bring your kids
Well,
forward.
one of the things you said in the middle of all that is, we're, as a society, and you keep bringing up the parents, because parents, if they're disconnected, the kids are going to be disconnected.
Oh yeah.
We keep we're moving further away from what's important. So how would you surmise, because I could read between the lines, but what is important, like on a family value level, that we want parents to hear and communicate with the kids, and if they're going to hand them off to someone like you that's going to create that account, what have we moved away from that's important?
I think that we're so, and there's a lot of answers to it, but I think we are so inundated with, we are the most connected society on the planet. And in terms of the
social
level
media
of, in terms of me being able to also reach out to my family in Argentina, like digitally, so there's a lot of plus and minuses, but we are so inundated with stuff that what I think is the most valuable is realizing the integrity of a person, realizing, recognizing their work ethic. We're more worried about how we're being perceived and how we perceive ourselves. So there's so many answers to it, but I think just being happy, doing everything through love, and doing the very best that you can. I think that we're just muddying up our waters with like too much, and have your kids struggle. Have a busy schedule for your kids and let them struggle.
Right.
And I think being able to have a support system that doesn't babysit you, that allows you to be responsible, that allows you to push forward, and really the basis being through, like, we don't help each other. Like, I don't really know how many years it's been since I've done trainings for maybe schools that can't afford it. You know how much I cost for them? I don't cost anything.
Right.
There's a reason that the business is there, and it's because it supports a bigger mission.
Right.
Last year I got an award from Central for a humanitarian award, but I didn't plaster it everywhere.
Awesome.
And it's because of what I do, because I'll send shirts out of the country to like DR or Puerto Rico, and I'll help, I'll buy equipment for athletes that can't afford it. I'll do training programs, and when I pick up that the family's going through some things, I'll reach out, I'll go sit with them for hours. I do more than what like the dollar value kind of calculates to. And I think that we don't reach out. I think if we helped out each other, like I know there's things that you do where we were just talking, you said, oh, well, if it's this and that, and if it's paid or not, like, who cares? And then you went right into the point of like, we gotta help. And we don't support each other. We support the wrong things. We babysit our kids. We don't accountable. And I have good friends that I see once a week, and I meet with them that are principals. And I know, I'm not going to share that because I don't want to blow up somebody else's spot, but I know that there are, with a wife as a teacher and dozens of friends as teachers, I know that what they want to change, it's like
they can't.
No, they can't. They're married to the system because
Their
they have
hands
to.
are tied, man.
They have core, the core
Yeah.
standards, and they have to
Yeah.
do the standardized testing, and the standardized testing isn't proving to do anything.
But when you get along with them, they let you know it's hurting the kids.
Yeah.
It's hurting society.
Yep.
It's destroying the mentality of the human being.
Yeah. They drug them up.
Right.
My kid is, I know kids that are on cocktails, and then the family needs to figure out how to change it because he pays attention in school, but then he shits himself on the bus, or I don't know. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm like, how about you figure out what the problem is?
Right.
Go to the source, and it's simple. You work hard, you do your best, you have a system around you that loves you whether you fail or whether you succeed.
Right.
And you just provide this. It's so simple, but our lives are so complicated.
You know what's amazing? One of the things you said in there is how you'll have a relationship with someone, but then if you pick up on there's an issue, they're having trouble,
Mm-hmm.
you'll show up and spend hours with them.
Oh yeah.
See, I think that's pivotal. Like you actually listen to people,
Mm-hmm.
you hear them. If you feel there's a pain and you feel you could help, show them love, and connect,
Oh yeah.
you show up and do it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of my biggest things as adults. Because all adults could sit and agree, yeah, we got issues, we got problems, whatever, and we just did an event here Monday night where I told them all, but what are you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to speak up and help these kids? Are you going to sit and talk with them?
Yeah.
I think that's the massive action is talk is cheap.
Mm-hmm.
As a society, it's especially dudes, man, waking up and being men and grabbing these young kids that, they're kind of off track and they want to be kind of punks. And,
Mm-hmm.
I laugh at some of these kids. They think they're gangster. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
bro, you're not a tough guy. You're not gangster.
You're like a Weathersfield gangster.
You're protected.
Yeah.
Like you're a tough guy in a protected bubble.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I could take a ride with you right now and you're going to crap yourself.
Oh yeah.
But it's being real with these kids, and I get it with all my kids' friends, and I'm real with them. I'm pretty raw with them, but I want more parents to do that. Like, what's stopping us from just speaking up?
Yeah.
Fear. Fear.
Well, I told you I'm affectionate,
Right.
but I'm terrified to hug or touch a
Oh,
kid.
you can't, man.
If a kid comes at me, there'll be time where I'm at a Hartford school, and I used to, train their track athletes, and they'll come running across the gym, and they'll come give me a hug, and I do this, and I run. I'm not even kidding you, and I'm like,
Right.
no, and I look straight at an adult, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
and it's like we're terrified of
Right.
we're terrified of being tough because of. I was talking to my dentist just an hour ago, and they were like, oh yeah, my 6-year-old laughs and talks about child abuse and stuff. I'm like, man, I remember the first time I stood up to my dad. It was also the last time I stood up to my
Yeah.
dad. He put a firm hand across my face. And do I think you should hit kids? No, I don't hit my kids. But I'm firm in terms of my presence and my expectations, and they
Right.
know I hold. But it's I'm not condoning that, but it's you have a strong parent that can help guide you
Yeah.
and can help you when you absolutely need you. Man,
Right.
that's so critical. We're so afraid, though.
If we could wake up the family unit, and the big thing is, hearing your story, you had a lot of mentors.
Mhm.
Great, amazing mentors
Oh yeah.
that helped you adapt and grow through your pain.
Mm-hmm.
We need more adults now connecting, like we do,
Yep.
to connect with these kids.
Yep.
Because if they're not going to get it at home, I feel like we should be there to help them.
I agree.
And teach them principles
Mhm.
that we'll talk more about, but teach them principles that are going to help transform their life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But what is it you do? What is it you said you love working with kids?
Yeah.
What do you do with the kids?
So,
When we talk kids, what age groups do you work with?
8 years old,
Yeah.
because I think there's a certain level of understanding of the body in terms of just simply how to move, that if we start too early, body awareness, proprioception, where you are in space, kids just don't have it earlier. And I know because I've tried certain things with my daughter. She started training with me when she was 3, and there are certain things where I'm not going to have her try to do it because I'll look and I'm like, woof, that didn't go well at all. But I understand that it's because kids have to learn in certain processes. So
Right.
8 years old is really where I start, and you have to be a really driven kid. So that's important. I call them elite athletes, but the reality is they have to actually want to be better.
It's funny, bro. When I was getting ready this morning,
Mm-hmm.
there's that do I put on a button-down shirt? And I'm like,
Yeah.
And I got this T-shirt that says Elite, and I'm like, that's Diego.
Yeah.
That's Diego's world, man. It's a
That's
shirt
right.
I have and it says Elite, and I'm like, I want to wear that, but I didn't want to wear a short sleeve shirt, show off the guns. So,
Yeah, go be.
but
I have a sleeveless
it's
one.
funny
We
you
could've
use
gone
it's
it.
funny you use that word, man, because that's kind of your avenue. Go there.
So I want kids that actually care, and there are so many kids that I know that are like, oh, I play this, but I really don't let my parents have me like do it. And I'm like, oh, it just burns me up inside. Because, my kids need to do something. Have you asked them what they want to do?
Right.
Like, are they, maybe they want to become, I trained for years a 12-year-old national champion speed skater.
Wow.
Inline speed skater. And they trained with me because I'm a unique combination, because who rollerblades, let alone speed skates. So that is also a trainer. And so these kids are the ones that you just look at them and they're just like insane. Like when they're outside, she was very, very intellectual. She would win like spelling bees and stuff. And then you see her, like the moment she traps on those skates, like something goes, I say something goes wrong, because in a good way.
Right.
Because these kids are fired up, right? And you use that all the time. I love it because...
Well, there's a thing now, man. I'm doing a lot of research on the mind with this, where the most amazing athletes in the world have a dark side.
Mm-hmm.
And they know in a good way, but it's a dark side, which is pain in their past, whatever, that they could tap into.
Oh, yeah.
That makes them just go off
Yeah.
on the field. It's just taming it when it's off the field, but
Oh, yeah.
when they get on that field, they go into that dark side that they don't think.
Oh, absolutely.
They don't think.
And it has to be organic.
Right.
It has to be real.
Yeah.
It has to be. So I take these kids and I interview everybody. You know, because I was at your house many times for hours, and it was like 800,000 o'clock at night, and I'm exhausted, but we have to get to the point.
Right.
And the point usually is a breakdown in the barriers where emotions come out.
Right.
And you know, because it happened at your house, where the real emotion, because after like, oh, I want to be a great soccer player, great runner, and I'm like, okay, great. And then we dig, and we dig and dig, and we find the heart of it. Well, I wanted this and that.
Right.
And so I always interview, because I need to make sure that, one, there's something a little off about your kid, because that usually means they'll align with me perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Right? Because like the standard, like, I'd like to develop, I'm like, you need to find somebody else, because you and I are not going to speak the same language. But being able to connect with somebody and find the true root, because when times get tough, I go right at it, just like you.
Awesome.
I don't hide, and I say, you said you wanted to become legendary, and what you're doing, this is a joke.
Right.
This isn't even becoming mediocre.
Right.
And so, or when we're lifting and it's in a small group, I'll go over real quiet, and I said, don't you forget why you're here.
Right.
Don't you forget.
Right.
This is, and I usually try to put it into a word or two, and I'm like, Division 1.
Yeah.
That's it. Stop quitting. And when you get these kids that are more driven, more elite, and it's really organic, and they're just kind of kooky, and there's always something, you're right, they might be shy, but they have incredible passion, right? So that's, how do you do that? And so finding these kids that are incredibly driven, that are, really good kids. I look at a really good support system. I really look at is the family going to support me to help the kid?
Right.
Are you going to helicopter me because you're gonna go away real fast?
Yeah.
You're like, well, I don't know if my kid should do that. Like, you're going to be over there and you're going to watch your kid crying and suffering.
Shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Let me do my thing.
Exactly.
Right.
And so
it's more than just, all right, we're going to do this many squats and run or whatever.
Oh man, it's holistic.
It's not like
360 degrees.
You're not like a personal trainer.
No.
Right?
That's why I look at performance coach, because I look at everything. I look at sleep, I look at recovery, I look at nutrition. We tested out with Sierra. I said, spend a week eating concentration of higher fats, concentration of higher carbs, concentration of higher protein. And I said, which one felt good?
Right.
Okay, do that one.
Right.
Because everybody's body's
and you know what was
different.
really cool about that is I saw that happening. It's like you said, you tap in with the text, and I don't respond all the time, but I see it.
Yep.
And I don't say anything. I make her do it on her own.
Yep.
I don't say make her. I don't have to make her do anything. The kid's driven.
Yeah, she's driven.
But when she was doing the meal stuff, I sat back and watched. And as many times I wanted to go in and say something, because I know a lot about a lot of stuff. But I'm like, this is your thing.
Yeah.
And she either wants it or you don't. If you don't want it, listen, now we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to make sure.
Yeah.
But that never happened. Like, she listened, soaked it up.
Yeah.
And I think that's where kudos to you is you develop that relationship with the child. I mean, she's a baby, man, you know? The kid's 16 years old. In my world, you're still a damn baby.
Oh, absolutely.
But you had that rapport that she listened and followed through.
Yeah.
And holds on to that. Like, that's a life lesson that I appreciate, bro, that I'm like, and it breaks my heart. I want more kids to have this. That's why we're here. Like, this is just not, let's throw a podcast out. I want this to hit freaking parents that they
Absolutely.
go, because like I told you coming in here, I talked to a woman yesterday and I want her child to come train with you. And she goes, how much does it cost? I'm like, we're starting off on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you told me, Steve, I need you to sell your truck right now to do this, it's going to make your kid the best, there's no conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
It's my freaking kid, man.
Absolutely.
When I'm dead, they're on their own earlier.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting to a certain point. I'm here for you, but that world, like you said, is tough.
Oh, yeah.
And the investment, what are we going to invest in our children? Like parents coming in here, getting their kids adjusted, it's about performance. It's like, we're going to get this machine and this innate intelligence awoken
Oh, yeah.
inside your body to perform.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about what you do. It's more than just the program of exercise.
Oh, like 10 squats. Like, go on bodybuilding.com and go get your generic
You go on YouTube
workout
and get
program.
many workouts.
1,000.
But it's the mindset that you're instilling in these kids.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what these people need to understand. It's that freaking mindset that a lot of the parents have lost out on, man. They're living in their emotional world and they're hurting and they're suffering. But don't put that crap on your kids.
Nope.
My thing is, if you need help, we can help you too.
Mm-hmm.
But hand over the kids and let's help lead them to become elite human beings.
Yeah. You want to know why I don't work with adults? I don't know if this ever came up. Because I don't have the psychological degree to manage you not making your high school volleyball team.
Right.
And absolutely, I mean, I've told parents, like, I don't work with adults. I have parents that I've known for years who I've developed their kids and like, well, can you have something? I'm like, no. I'm like, I love you, but no.
Not that much.
I'm like, I won't do it. And it's because these kids, and I love young because these kids, I have an opportunity to mold them. And does that have it like a tone of arrogance or something? Hold on a second. I've worked hard to become the human that I am. From podcasts to books, and I'm working every single day in order to become a better father and mentor and athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I said, not to be arrogant, but if your kid ends up a little closer to me, not even now comparing to the parent, but me, like compared to society, that kid will be okay.
Right.
And so to be able to not have to deal with adults that I have to now have like psychological, I just get depressed and things like I don't have. So these kids they're not broken yet.
Right.
So what we can do is we can break them a little bit and mold them into amazing, but always based off of who
not
they
broken
are.
Yet. Because they're going to get beat up.
Oh yeah.
But
I've been broken
them,
so many times.
But we want them to adapt to the fight.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get hit, you're going to heal, it's going to make you stronger.
Yeah.
But there's also that other road that they get beat up and get knocked down and they're not getting up. That becomes the adult that's a wounded mechanism that is becoming emotional.
Yeah.
They end up here on all these types of medications and they're sad and they're depressed. And they may walk in here with back pain and I'm like, this is so much bigger than back pain. They're like, wow, you're different. I'm like, this is about life.
Yeah.
We got to wake your ass up, man, so you could heal and find your purpose and passion in life. But it's easier with the kids.
Yeah.
They have less. I'm going to write this children's book, and it's going to be called The Backpack. And I imagine, like, we go through our life with all these emotional things. You got a backpack.
You talked about that, right?
And you throw the rocks in.
Carry
It's all
them
the
up.
emotional stuff. And now you show up, Diego, fix me. And it's like, now the emotions come up, and they're moving slower because they got all this stuff.
Yeah.
We get the kids young. There might be a pebble in there.
Yeah.
Right? And then a rock gets thrown in there. We're like, let's chisel that rock. You can deal with this shit. We'll crush it.
Let's shape that thing, crush it up.
So parents, it's like, become part of the mission, man. Like, how would you define your mission?
So I want to build, and it started off just because of who I am and my love of athletics, to be able to help kids get forward. But then it became quickly accelerated into becoming better adults. So my major mission is to provide, I know so much, especially in the field of what I'm in. And it's not because I just developed it. I studied and researched and read and medical journals and podcasts and then I made my own kind of science on, this is bad and that, and so I back everything with science and knowledge. And I think that when the real mission is to give an emotional, physical combination of being able to handle anything that life throws at you. And my athletes, especially the ones that have me year after year, you can tell they're better to their friends, they're kinder to their family, they're more resilient, they have less of like, I'm going to take an Advil, they tough it out. Like when they're with me, month after month and year after year, like you find that what I would throw at them a year or two ago that would break them, and they're like, I just can't.
You keep bringing in these hints of the medications.
Mm-hmm.
Drugs. There's no difference, right?
No.
You're dropping in, several times you've done it where these kids,
I hate it.
the Advil, the Tylenol, the anxiety, you know, and that's where society's heading. If there's pain and parents feel like their service of love is to give a drug, what are they instilling in that child?
That well, one, we ignore finding out what the actual problem is.
Source of the problem.
Yeah, and then it's such a dumb way for us to be able to provide a solution. The solution is just some fabricated, kind of like science.
Right.
And I get kind of tripped up in my words because it makes me very angry.
Right.
I have this issue or I have that or I have anxiety and then we throw drugs at it and it makes me very mad.
Yeah.
And it gets me very, very, very frustrated because I fight the machine all the time.
Right.
Where I just can't be specific because they'll hear, but I have athletes, and I've had athletes in the past that are on cocktails that I know are going to inhibit how far I can push them. So we get to amazing levels. Kids that are now playing collegiate sports, and I know that I could have gotten them even further. The capacity for me to see this kid at 13 who is amazing, but you've taken away his emotion, you've taken away his way to represent himself. You've literally stole his life. And then at a certain point, now he's an adult, now it's all firm and fixed.
Yeah.
And this is what you've given them.
So you talk about the machine. Bro, we've talked about this, we've alluded to with each other. It's creating a machine that's going to pull them away from that.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to instill this mentality, and then create action steps on how to take care of your mental, physical, spiritual self. It's really what it comes down to. It's really everything in this past 40 so minutes it's tapped into. There's been the mental, physical, emotional that's created Diego.
Mm-hmm.
Right, as a little kid, traveling the world, being thrown into different situations that you didn't get emotionally destroyed, you got emotionally built up.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you could connect with family in Argentina with love, and be okay being over here.
Mm-hmm.
And you've created the kid
still
that
feel close.
And the kid that lost his purpose of soccer and then failed because you lost a bit of your identity, but then you refound it.
Mm-hmm.
You had a mechanism around you to help build that.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of the story, man.
Yeah.
It's now, we can't let Diego get thrown into like becoming a gym teacher and getting around 50 kids a day. We gotta build a freaking machine, bro. Because it's the demon in our society now where parents just gotta have faith on who they're handing their kids not over to, but being part of.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because now you become part of that texting regime and that family, and mom and dad are starting to see it, and the accountability. It's going to create accountability for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge mission, bro. To get kids in a lifestyle of not relying on drugs, right? Realizing you don't have to reach for that pill to feel good.
Oh yeah.
Maybe reach for yourself.
Yeah, and there are so many out there that pretend like they are the one answer. But for me, the support system is critical.
Right.
So parents have trusted me in ways that I didn't actually expect.
Right.
Just recently, one of the athletes reached out to me off of a group chat, and at first I'm like, because I don't love that.
Right.
But then I was like, okay, they need me for something, and they started reaching out to me about a failed relationship and how they feel like they are not appreciated, and they feel like this person's taking advantage of them. And then they said, I know that you are strong enough to step away from scenarios and relationships that you know aren't healthy for you. How do I do it? And so I ended up helping them out, and it was unbelievable. The emotion just swelled up in me and being so proud. And then I reached out to the parent, and I told the kid, I'm going to just let mom and dad know.
Absolutely.
Reached out to the parent, and the mom's response was, we are so lucky to have you because we trust you.